Hey everyone, Scott here, and today, I know this is a bit different from my usual content, but I have said in the past I don't want my channel to just be about the Dragon Ball Super card game. I do want to maybe talk about some of the other card games that are out there. So yeah, I'm jumping back into Magic Arena for the first time in a bit over a year. I think the last time I played was a few weeks after M21 came out, which that was released towards the end of June last year, I believe. In fact, when I logged in, I got like 2 packs of M21. They were like my season rewards based on how I kind of finished those seasons. Basically, I got into it because obviously the beginning of 2020, you know, we were in lockdown and things like that, so I wasn't able to play the Dragon Ball Super card game in person. So to kind of still get that kind of card game fix in my life, if you want to say, I played Magic Arena for a few months. I guess that's one downside of Dragon Ball Super not having like its own digital equivalent, is I wasn't able to play that. I know there's things like Untap and Octagon, but I don't really want to be playing with randoms on like Untap. Everything I've seen about it is people just arguing over the rules with their opponent who they don't know. So yeah, I didn't want to really get into that, so instead I jumped into Magic Arena. And the reason I'm jumping back in now, actually, is because I went down a bit of a kind of YouTube rabbit hole, I guess you would say. Because I saw at one point these new full art lands for the new set, Midnight Hunt. And basically, I really like the look of these. So I was wondering, is there like any kind of product that I could have bought that would give me like a decent number of these kind of full art lands? I really like the way they look with like the black and white, and it's just the border that really stands out with the color that the card actually taps for. So yeah, because back in the day I bought a Battle for Zendikar Fat Pack, I believe they were called at the time, and that came with a set of like full art lands from that set. So I basically went on YouTube and looked at people unboxing different like Midnight Hunt products, like booster boxes, bundles, set boosters, draft boosters, things like that, just to see was there anything that came with a decent number of these full art lands. Obviously the booster boxes, I know you're going to get one in each pack, but still. So I guess the bundle is the equivalent of what the Fat Pack was. But that doesn't come with a set of these full art lands. Like, it comes with lands, but they're not even like full art ones. They're just other basic ones. I think you get some foil ones, but I wasn't really interested in that. I just really wanted to see if I could get a playset of these lands, because I don't necessarily have plans of playing Paper Magic again in the future, in the immediate future. But I don't know, maybe at some point in the a few years from now I may get back into it, and I would really like to have these lands as so that if I do start playing again I can actually use these. I think these are the best looking kind of full art lands they've ever done. So yeah, I ended up, once I was looking at all those unboxings, I was getting recommended then Magic the Gathering gameplay videos, and then eventually Magic Arena videos, and I was like, you know what, it's been a bit over a year, why don't I jump back in and kind of have a look, see what's going on, see what the meta's like, just to kind of satisfy my own curiosity a little bit. So the one thing I did before making this video was jump in and add all the like codes for free stuff, which is how I got all these packs here. So I thought the first thing I'd do in this video is kind of open these packs up. So we'll start here with we'll go in chronological order, I guess. So I guess from the older packs, I'm basically just looking for, hang on, I'm going to have to turn that audio down a little bit, because that reveal of the Terror of the Peaks there was a bit loud. So yeah, a lot of these older packs I probably just want to get wild cards from them, in like some of these slots rather than the specific cards themselves. Just because I'm not even sure if Core 21 is even still standard legal. I would think it would be, because it's literally just been over a year since it was released, but I don't know. I don't quite understand how the Magic, like, rotation stuff works completely. I have a vague idea, but I don't know, there's some sets that, because I did also have a quick look to see if my decks were still here from the first time I played, and most of those are out of standard now, which is weird because some of those sets I would have thought would still be in standard. So again, clearly I don't understand how the kind of rotation works properly. I thought things like Ikoria, which was like 1 or 2 sets before Core 21, I thought that still would have been in standard now, if it's only like a year and a half later. So, Saga. So I have seen in some of my gameplay videos that I did end up watching that I don't know that these were in the game. There might have been last time I played. I don't know, but I think I understand how they work. You just get an additional marker each turn, and then once you do the third one, it goes away. Yeah, it says right there at the top. You sacrifice it after the third one. I don't know what deck I'm going to try and build. So, probably things like this, a mythic wildcard is probably more useful to me than a certain mythic rare at this point, because I don't know really what I want to build. So then we get Strixhaven, School of Mages. So these, again, I've seen that there are... Oh, D-Spark. Nice. Wait, so I have this version of... Because it seemed like last time I played, to get these like fancy looking ones, you had to just pay for them. You couldn't actually just like... You would open a booster, you'd get the basic version, and then you'd have to go to the shop to buy the fancier looking version. So, does this mean I just have this version, or is this like a free cosmetic that I picked up at some point? I don't quite know whether that's something that's changed with... Oh, so maybe it's just in Strixhaven packs you're guaranteed to get a fancy looking rare. So this is the card type that they introduced in this that I don't know how they work. It's a lesson, but it looks like it's just a sorcery, and it's a subset of sorceries. Interesting. I'll have to look up and see how that works. Take a look in the yeah, it looks like you do get a fancy one in these packs. I have to look in the like deck builder and see how lessons work, because they usually have some kind of like more info button where you can get like explanations of how all the different mechanics work. So some of these I already seem to have, but I think that's because when I logged in I got a bunch of decks, like free decks, and then a bunch of cards that I assume were the ones that are in those decks. So I'm assuming I must have a deck that already has Cleric class in it, so and Feign Death even. So I guess that's why some of them are showing up as not being like my first copy of some of these cards. Varus, Silvery Moon Ranger, Ward. Okay. Yeah, so here we have the newest set, Innistrad Midnight Hunt. So when I actually stopped playing Paper Magic, weird, there's no way that's my first Evolving Wilds. It must just mean this artwork is my first version of it, because I definitely had Evolving Wilds in decks before. But yeah, the point that I stopped playing Paper Magic before was the last time Innistrad was in Standard. It was Shadows over Innistrad, and I think I quit right as Eldritch Moon was coming out. So yeah, it's interesting now that I'm getting back into Magic Arena as Innistrad is just back again. Because that is probably the most... Because I didn't start too long before Shadows over Innistrad came out, so... Yeah, like this guy I know was in that set as well. I was trying to do like a blue-white Spirit deck. So I probably actually do have a couple of copies of that guy in the paper. In like actual physical versions of the cards. So like I said, these are all the decks that I got just for logging in. I guess these are like basic ones they give to people. I think it's from here down, and my decks that are still there from the last time I played the game. So the first deck I made when I got back into the game was this white-black life gain deck. We had like the Ajani Pridemate and the Bloodthirsty Aerialist. And these would get bigger. They get +1/+1 every time you gain life, and then run it with a bunch of cards like this, where when another creature enters the battlefield, draw a card. Not draw a card, gain a life. So that would pump up your these two. Then I would have cards like this, the Companion Lurrus, who has lifelink. Interesting that I didn't actually use him. Has the starting deck has mana value 2 or less. Oh, that's why I didn't, because I wanted to run like these different like the Ajani Planeswalker. I wanted to say Unison because that's what they're called in well, basically what they're called in Dragon Ball Super, but yeah, like I say, there's Evolving Wild, so I have obviously had versions of it before. It must have just been that. And a lot of these grayed out because I'm assuming they're no longer like in standard. So they're no longer legal to be used. Cub Warden, I remember this one. Because it had lifelink and mutate. I liked mutate as a kind of skill. And I remember I would mutate this on top of the... I think it's, if I remember, mutate non-human creature, so you could mutate on the Aerialist, and you would have a flying lifelinker that gets bigger every time you deal damage or gain life, so it would hit and then it would pump itself up. Yeah, and then you get the 2 little cats with lifelink as well. Yeah, Vampire of the Blood Moon. This was really good, like a one drop turn 1. Just for, you could quite easily get in a few hits, especially because your opponent just doesn't want to, unless they have a 1 drop that's like a 1/1. They really don't want to like trade with this guy, so you could get a few hits in on your opponent, gain some life. If you drop like a turn 2 or a turn 3 Aerialist, you could start pumping them up. Yeah, and then you had the Ajani Planeswalker, just to... You gain 2 life and get 2 +1/+1s. So that would boost up all your Pridemates, your Aerialists, and then you could put even more markers on them if you wanted to. I think there was another Ajani Planeswalker. I think maybe I had it. 4 cost. Oh, there it is. It's in the middle here. Yeah, you would -2 and you get basically another Ajani Pridemate. I mean, it's literally called Ajani's Pridemate as well, with the same skill. So even if your opponent dealt with all your Pridemates, if you could get this guy down turn 4, and then his +1, you gain life equal to the number of creatures you control, and the number of Planeswalkers you control. So you'd always gain at least 1 life, even if this was literally the only thing you had out. And then the 0 was basically a board wipe if you could get to 35 life. Yeah, so this was a fun deck. It didn't win a lot, but I had a lot of fun with it, like I say. Then I believe the next deck I built was Mono Red, because with that life gain deck I just would run into a lot of Mono Red decks and be dead before I could get like a big Ajani's Pridemate out. So I ended up building the Mono Red deck that was kind of going around at the moment, or at that moment, just to see how it worked. And Yeah, I did win a lot of games with it. It was obviously a strong deck at that point. Yeah, and I think I learned a lot about the way the game kind of works with this deck as well, or at least in a way that I hadn't up to then, because I don't know, the way I kind of built decks was like either like tribal decks or built around like a certain mechanic, like that life gain deck, where it's just like I'm just trying to get my stuff down and trying to make it bigger and bigger until it's too big for my opponent to like handle. But this kind of like aggro deck just sort of, I don't know, it was a different style of play that I hadn't really experienced up to then in Magic, and it just kind of made me understand even some of the more like basic elements of the game that I hadn't really given a lot of thought to before. Just in terms of like even the basic things, like if I'm gonna play something this turn that doesn't have haste, like say I want to drop Anax, just attack with my creatures first. Just leave my energy untapped so that I'm representing that maybe I have something like an Infuriate, or even, I believe, yeah, because Embercleave could be flashed in, so assuming I had like 6 energy open, or, well, no, because it would get 1 less for each attacking creature. So say it was attacking like 3 things, this would go down to, what, a 3? Yeah, it would go down from 6 to 3, and I could play at instant speed, and it would automatically attach something. So, let's say if I'm attacking with like 3, say I got like 2 of these and a, I don't know, Rimrock Knight, it's like representing to my opponent that maybe I can flash in an Embercleave, I can use an Infuriate, and so even if I don't have those cards in my hand, and I'm literally just, the only thing I want to play is Anax, just wait until after combat, just again to give my opponent something to think about if they want to block my creatures or not, and if I can like bluff that I have something that will kind of get them, will kind of you know, like this, buff up one of my creatures, give it double strike and trample, you know, stick that on the Grimrock Knight, and suddenly I've got what, a 4/2 double strike. So it's gonna be very difficult for a lot of decks to kind of block that on the early turns. So yeah, it was just basic things like that, or even just knowing when to attack in with a creature, even if your opponent has a good block. Like say I have like this and like 2 of these out, the 1 Steamkin and 2 Scorch Splitters, and my opponent plays a 2/2 and passes, and say I have my Steamkin's already a 2/2, I can attack in with just this 2/2 Steamkin, all my energy untapped, and then I'm representing that maybe like I have something like a shock, where I could shock them face, and then if they block with their 2/2, my Steamkin will become a 3/3, and it'll just eat their 2/2. So just basic things like that of understanding kind of when to hold your energy open just to kind of bluff to your opponent, then maybe you have something that will kind of get them if they try to block your creatures, and that'll just allow you to kind of bluff your way into getting some more damage on them. Like in that case, maybe they don't block this 2/2, I get to hit them for 2, and then just drop something else like another Rimrock Knight or a Bone Crusher Giant or something like that. Maybe even light up the stage because I've done damage to them this turn. So yeah, this was another deck that had a lot of fun with, and was kind of something I hadn't experienced with the other kind of decks that I would play. I would kind of shy away from kind of aggro decks up to that point. No clue if this deck is any good in Historic or not, because I'm assuming I would have to change it to be a Historic deck in order to still play it. I mean, I may as well go ahead and do that, just because like it's not standard legal, so I'm not going to be able to do anything with it in standard. So I think the next deck I made after that was Cycling, and again you can see most of this deck is out of standard. I don't get why I had this Lurrus in the side deck, because I don't think this works. Oh wait, no, it does. Permanent. Each permanent in your deck is 2 or less. Okay. So these big cycling spells here, or the Zenith Flare, these aren't permanent, so yeah. I could have Lurrus. I think I quit after the companion nerf, but I think I built this deck before the companion nerf, when it was still, you were able to play the companion from the sideboard, I believe is how it worked. Before you would just add in it to your hand for, what was it, once per game, pay 3? Yeah. So now you just got to pay 3, and then you got to pay the cost again from your hand. So that was a massive nerf to companions. But yeah, this was a pretty basic kind of cycling deck. You just get the Fox down early. You get one of these 2 guys down early, or the Stinger, and just any time you would cycle anything, you would get a little bit of benefit. Your Fox would get bigger. Your healer would heal you up for 1. This guy would create a 1/1. And this guy would just do 1 damage to your opponent, and then just everything else in the deck was cycling except for Zenith Flare, which does damage to your opponent equal to the number of cards in your graveyard with cycling. It looks like you also gain life. Not that gaining life generally mattered, because you would just cycle a bunch on your first 3 or 4 turns and then try and go for game with a Zenith Flare. Just assume that you've done enough damage to your opponent with, like, hitting them with the Fox a couple of times, or, you know, a few activations of the Stinger. Maybe you have a bunch of 1/1s as well you can swing in with. And yeah, if your opponent was really good at clearing the board and getting rid of your Foxes or your Stingers or any of these guys, you were kind of screwed at that point, because then you were literally just ditching cards from your hand to get more cards that you just wanted to ditch again. And it was, like, very easy for your opponent if they just kept the board clear, and especially if they were playing any kind of blue in their deck, where you try and Zenith Flare them and then they just counter spell it. I hadn't really been checking the sideboards of the other deck. I don't know that I put too much effort into my sideboards. I don't think I played a lot of best of 3. I think I mainly played best of 1. But these all seem decent. This one was interesting. Choose any card name. So this was kind of a, if I understand my Magic cards correctly, this was basically a Pithing Needle that would let you look at your opponent's hand first. You can still do mana abilities. I think Pithing Needle just stops all abilities, maybe. So it's kind of slightly different. And then Grafdigger's Cage. I remember this one being pretty good. Creature cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. This would be a really good card now, with a lot of the new Midnight Hunt stuff. And just save it. Yep, cool. But yeah, no, that Grafdigger's Cage was just, that'd be good, because the new set has those cards that can be replayed from the graveyard, so that'd be, I'm assuming that is out of standard as well. I also made a mill deck at some point. I don't think I played too many games with this. Okay. I was gonna use this deck. I remember now. I was gonna make this deck, and I watched some other people play it on, like, YouTube and Twitch and stuff, and it didn't seem good, so I didn't end up crafting the cards for it. So yeah, but it's obviously still in my collection, because this is the list I was gonna build. I was misremembering watching other people playing the deck as me actually playing the deck. Yeah, okay. I should probably just delete that deck. I did also... So there was like a Brawl deck, because I think there was a Brawl event going on. There was this Aura deck. I remember this, because I actually thought about building this in Paper Magic and going to my locals. Again, it has the Lurrus. And yeah, it's just everything's 2 or less, and you just get the Alseid of Life's Bounty. You just attack or the Hawk or the Gingerbrute, and you would just attach all these enchantments to it, all these auras. And then you could like I say, just you get a big guy and you'd be able to swing into your. Actually, I don't think you would equip up the Alcide. I think this was to. You would actually sacrifice this to give protection to the guy you're attacking with. Just to give them protection from whatever color. Like if your opponent was a red deck, you'd give it protection from red, and that would guarantee that your guy could kind of get through. Yeah, so you put it on the Hawk because it had flying and lifelink innately. The Gingerbrute can make it so it can't be blocked except by creatures with haste, and then you would try and get this in aura onto it, which gives you +1 for each enchantment you control. So you get this down hopefully with like 3 or so other auras on the creature, and then you'd have like a big Hawk or a big Gingerbrute. I mean, you could put it on the Alcide, but it doesn't have any kind of evasion on the card innately. But if this is the only creature you kind of find early, you would be able to. Yeah, you could also use this God's Willing as another way to gain protection. Is this another one I didn't actually make? Yeah, okay. So there was some of these clearly at the end of when I was playing. I wanted to make them, but I never actually. It's probably I saw other people using them on YouTube and stuff, and I thought they looked cool. Now this one, 100% has to be one that I actually played myself. Yeah, okay. Because there's a lot of one-offs in this deck, if I remember correctly. Yeah, a lot of one-off elementals, because I only had one copy of some of these cards. Like the Hydroid Crisis. I remember this being a really good card for this deck, but I only had one, so that's why I was only running one. The whole point of this deck, I believe, was just you get the Risen Reef down, and then when you play another elemental, you get to look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you put it in tapped. If you don't, you can add it to your hand. Oh, you have to put it in your hand? Yeah, you can choose to put the land, but you can't add it to your hand. So if for some reason you needed to get an extra card in your hand, and the top card of your deck was a land, you could actually decline to put it in play and then get it to your hand. Then you had Growth Spiral. This was basically just like a ramp deck, and while also playing down threats like Cavalier of Gales and just things that can attack into your opponent, like the Cloudseer or Cloudkinseer and the Spitfire. Yeah. And then I had a couple of Planeswalkers in this deck that's. So like this one buffed up my elementals, this one created elementals, 2 elementals, which I think would trigger Risen Reef twice. And yeah, this one creates a 4/4 bird elemental, so one with flying. Can also just shrink some of your opponent's cards. Yeah, the Ember Cat, yeah, because this basically becomes mana for other elementals or Chandra Planeswalkers, so this one or this one. You would just, like I say, ramp up till you could get one of these kind of big elementals down, or a couple of those kind of mid-sized ones down in a single turn. And then you would just kind of, yeah, it was just like elemental tribal, I guess. I don't know that I had any, like, yeah, no, this Trailblazer. This is the one that can. It buffs up all your other elementals. It gives them +1 power, but then you can also, if you have enough out, you can go really mad with this guy. Just pay 4, and it gets +1 for each elemental you control until the end of the turn. So it wasn't like a permanent buff or anything. But if you could have like 5 or 6 elementals out, suddenly this becomes like a 7/7 and 8/8, something like that. And that was like one of the win conditions of the deck. But again, didn't have a full play set of it, so I was just playing 2. Same with the Growth Spirals, some of these bigger ones as well. I don't know that I had a lot of success with that deck. It was mainly just something that I built to try and use some of the cards I had in my collection, I guess, because I had a decent number of like elementals, and I must have pulled 3 of the Risen Reef, so I just wanted to get the use of them. Then the rest of these decks I don't think really matter, because this is just like for completing a daily quest. This is a Brawl deck, and this, I believe, was another one that I don't think I made. Now that I'm thinking about it, this may still be missing. Oh no, I did actually build this one. I must have already had a lot of cards for it, because I think if I look up here, I don't have a ton of wild cards, or I didn't have a ton of wild cards when I stopped playing, which is probably why I didn't finish those other 2 decks. But yeah, this was just like try and empty my opponent's hand, stop them from being able to play anything. Yeah, have this Whisperer, so every time it mutates, make your opponent drop a card again. Yeah, I don't know that this was a very good deck. Just if your opponent could get something down early that would continue to get them value, it didn't really matter if you could just destroy your opponent's hand. They would just keep attacking him with whatever they had on board. And yeah, a lot of decks seem also to have a lot of card draw as well. So, a lot of card draw on creatures as well. So, they could like build up the board while also filling their hand back up. I did a few drafts, and I was hoping to do a draft when I got back into the game now, but it seems like they're all slightly too expensive for the number of gems I have left over from the previous drafts I've done. I could do a Strixhaven quick draft. Maybe that'll be something I will do. But I think, just for now, I'm going to call it there for this video. I'll probably end up doing a part 2, where I build a deck and play a few like quick games with it. And then maybe I'll do another one where I do a draft. Which of these do I want? I don't actually know what any of these cards do, so I won't choose that yet. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video at least. Like I said, there'll be a part 2, probably a part 3 as well. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you want to be notified when those videos come out. Go ahead and leave a like on the video, it really helps me out. And thanks for watching.